Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be looking at the Louisville Regional results in its entirety over this past weekend. So we took a look at day 1 data in our previous video. We looked at all the usage rate data, and we also looked at all the cool niche Pokemon that made it past the first day of the tour. And now we get to see how those squads did in the second day, right? We'll look at day 2 data, as well as, usage rates, all the top team comps, and we have the website and the resources to do it, right? So once again, thank you to VGC Victory Road and the Lab Mouse website for giving us the tools that we need to be able to look and break down the data for this tournament, right? So again, this is all good information to look at, especially if you're going to the live regionals next weekend, because again, another regional. So if you need something to use for that regional, and maybe if you just need a little bit of inspiration overall for regulationH right now, feel free to grab one of these squads, because again, up-to-date metadata is what we want, and up-to-date teams just gives us the best possible chance for success right now if you're still looking to earn championship points, or if you're just looking to have a pretty cool team to use overall in ladder play in regulationH. All right, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it, and let's take a look at the results. Alright, so here's the day 1 data that we looked at in the previous video, and I won't dwell too much on it because we've already covered it there, but the main thing to get out of this is Sneasler is #1 in usage, okay, and with it, you've got 4 dragon types. I mean, this kind of makes sense in a little bit because, look, you've taken out Urshifu, you've taken out Fluttermane, you've taken out Chien-Pao, so that just means all the dragons get to come out and play now, right? So you've seen Garchomp over here, Archaludon, Dragapult, and Dragonite. We had a whole video on double dragon cores about a week ago or so, and it stays true even now. So that's another thing to take out of this. Goldango and Rillaboom are still very, very good. Instant dropping to 7th is quite interesting, right, at 25% usage, but that's still like very good, just that number itself, 25% usage, the fact that it's 7th is quite amazing, right? But again, after this, you still got Pelipper Rain stuff sneaking in there in the 12th slot there. Amoonguss is still also really good. Again, good defensive backbone with Incineroar, and Primarina coming in as your lone fairy type that still has haze stuff for, denying other setup plays, pretty good into Dondozo. And just overall a good solid water fairy type this time around, right? So then as we head into day 2, look at this. So day 2 data looks like this, where Sneasler is now 45% in usage, still #1, of course. And then Rillaboom dropping to 7th instead of Incineroar, and then Incineroar rising back up to 35%. And again, Incineroar was on the winning team yet again. So never ever doubt Incineroar, even if it drops in usage. In the top teams, it's still like top tier, okay? And it'll just still end up winning a tournament overall. So never doubt Incineroar, right? Take a page out of Wolfglick's book. He never doubts Incineroar, right? So look at this. So you've got Goldango and Kingambit at #2 and #3, basically a tie there, right? And then look at Garchomp over there at 30% usage. Garchomp was also on the winning team, by that ad. So, of the 4, Garchomp looking really, really strong right now. And it makes sense because, again, Sneasler, Goldango, Kingambit, Incin, what do they all have in common? They're weak to ground types. Who's a ground type? How about Garchomp? Okay, so there's no doubt as to why this thing is being used. It has pretty good resistance into a lot of other things as well. And then after this, look, you still got Amoonguss over here, still within the top 5, and then Dragapult, Archaludon here. I'm a little surprised that these two are as low as they are, but again, 19% use is not bad. Primarina dropping, from 31% to 19, not great conversion there. And then Dragonite virtually the same, 17.3, 18.2, 1% usage of an increase, yet still maintaining its spot in the top 12 there. So lots of interesting things. Again, the ghost steel types are pretty good right now. Like, again, steel type, steel type, steel type. Okay, ghost over here. So, lots of things that are not too crazy. Okay, just in terms of these Pokemon, you knew these would be the best, right? It's just the fact that Sneasler is now #1, 45%. It's just insane. And again, don't forget Porygon 2 sneaking in here at 21%. And again, P2 balance teams were very, very good. They also featured a ground type just like Garchomp over here with Instant Amoonguss. So you can even start a team like that. But again, Terra Fighting, Terra Flying, Porygon 2 teams were very, very strong overall. Okay, so what does this mean? So this means Sneasler Balance is still very, very good. double dragon cores are still very, very good. Sneasler dragon teams are very, very good. And Goldengo also is a good Pokemon still to use in general, right? So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at the teams and let's see how things fared with some of our cool niche Pokemon that we mentioned in day 1. And we'll look at the strong cores overall. So this way you can kind of build around those cores themselves for your next tournament, right? You might not pick the same team that we're going to show you from the region, but at least pick the core because that's what's the driving force in the engine for the squad. Okay, so let's take a look at those. All right, so now we're going to go into the Lab Mouse website here and let's spotlight and preview the top 8 teams. So how about here at number 1, Andrew Zheng. It is Sneasler, Garchomp, and yes, if this looks familiar, it is the second place team from Dortmund from Maddie Morgan. So it got second place there. How about first place over here? You know, just a little bit of a redemption idea. But, you know, coaching Sneasler is quite good with a dragon type here. And you have the Garchomp with Clear Amulet, so that's really good. Life Orb Goldengo with the Mungus makes a lot of sense. And then this Backbone with Porygon too, you know, for your speed control with Trick Room is just quite nice. It's annoying by just clicking recover over time. And after this, you know, you've got Terra Blast, Terra Ground. That's pretty strong into King Gambit, good into Incin, good into other Goldengo teams. It just makes a lot of sense overall, just having a Terra Blast ground type here. And then what's really cool, again, is the Terra Flying Sneasler, because now you can Earthquake next to this thing. And then from there, just, you know, have a ton of pressure with this Garchomp here, along with Sneasler. And, you know, the status condition of Dire Claw, you saw it throughout the weekend on the stream. Sleep, paralysis makes all the difference. So, you know, it's just no question why this thing is number 1 right now, just in terms of usage. So congrats to Andrew on a great result. Edging out one of our good buddies that we've known for a while, Mr. Joe Ugarte, right? So this is his Jump Bluff team. All right, this is like a lot of comfort picks for him. This is basically Portland with updated modifications for Regulation H. We've seen the Eject Pack Torkoal before. We've seen Jump Bluff before, as well as the Assault Vest King Gambit. This is nothing new. Again, he didn't have the greatest luck with Jump Bluff on stream, but it was much, much better in his non-stream matches, I can imagine. And he even said that in his interview too, right? So, you know, Sleep Powder, Sleep Mist, depending on you, you know, just be lucky, just hit it, of course. And again, the double Dragon Core with Garchomp, Dragonite here, and the King Gambit is quite strong here. And, you know, this is multi-scale D-Knight, not inner focus. So you're going to get good value out of your King Gambit, you know, with the Defiant boost. And then you still have the aggression with Typhlosion coming in with the Tailwind support from the Jump Bluff and the Sun from the Torkoal. So lots of good ideas here. And again, just weather control being important in this kind of format, because there's so much Torkoal. I'm sorry, there's so much Pelipper. There's Ninetales now and the occasional Tyrannotars that you're going to see. So just having that along with the rest of this is quite strong here. Oh, this is Assurance King Gambit, by the way. So I like this. And, you know, again, King Gambit is Terra Flying here. So couple Terra Flyings here. The Torkoal is Terra Flying, and so is the King Gambit. So common Earthquake targets. So 1, 2, 3 Earthquake targets here, and even the Jump Bluff to an extent, right? So you can even just do all of this, and it has pretty good synergy. And again, Ice Spinner, really good at blowing up terrain, especially against Indeedee. So this way your King Gambit can have priority moves overall. I like it. So congrats to Joe on a great run there. Riley over here. So this is pretty cool from Riley. Again, it's relatively standard. It's, you know, Pelipper, Amoonguss, Archaludon, Basque Legion. You already know this core. And then you add the King Gambit here. Like we said in our previous video, this is normally some dragon type like a Salamence, but now instead we just add Sneasler here, and we could just be annoying, you know, with Dire Claw shenanigans, right? So, you know, cool squad to use if you want to use something like that. Just another kind of variant for Archaludon Rain. But now this is where we get interesting, right? You know, in 4th place here from Parker Simmons, he had the egg, okay? He had the Executor, and what a niche this thing pulls. We already know what we're getting with Indeedee and Torkoal and Ursaluna stuff, right? But then you have the shenanigans from the Zoroark with the choice specs, you know, with the illusion. Is that a Zoroark? Is that not? We don't know. And then the thing just blasts you with Hyper Voice and Flamethrower and Terra Blast. Okay, with the choice specs, does so much damage. Of course, the Gallade is really good against dark types because, you know, you have a couple things that are weak to dark here, and the King Gambit is a very common Pokemon, so just having the Gallade for that is quite good, especially in Incineroar too, right? Which Ursaluna doesn't really, sometimes struggles against, right? But Again, the show is with the egg over here. So you get Trick Room and Expanding Force. No big deal. You get that with Hatterene, right? So what's the benefit with Executor? You get a fast mode with Chlorophyll. And then at the same time, you also have Sleep Powder. These are all tools that Hatterene cannot give you. And of course, a standard Grass Nuke with Energy Ball over here, just in case if, you know, a Rillaboom wants to come in and change the terrain to grass. Now, all of a sudden, the Executor can have boosted Energy Ball, which is kind of funny when you think about it, right? So this is a cool niche. I don't know if they'll make the rental public, of course, but hey, it was great to see on stream here. Maybe not the top 8 result. I think top 32 was a much better match. But anyway, great job to Parker. Really cool team. Nice ideas there. Then we have this team from Marco. And there was a few of these, right? There was a couple, you know, I think his name was Andrew and another buddy that also went 5-3 with this team. But here we go, Marco Martinez. Look at this. This we saw from our Arbutaro Lara, you know, just coaching into the Corviknight stuff. How about you coach into bulk up Ceruledge rather than bulk up Corviknight? So bulk up, +1 attack, +1 defense, same thing with coaching here. So you can essentially get +2 all of those things in one turn. Flash Fire, really good. Just pivot option into, you know, Typhlosion Eruption stuff. If you think about it, it's really nice. And then, of course, Bitter Blade and then Shadow Sneak priority attacks into the Ghost types that are running around, and even the Steel types like Goldengo and Kingambit in general. Ceruledge looking really good here, and you can't fake it out either. So, you know, it's a little bit easier to set up a bulk up when you can't fake it out. Then you have Gastrodon, the niche Pokemon here. Always comes back and does something annoying when you use Gastrodon. Storm Drain, really good, and you're a ground type, so water immunity, and then at the same time, Electroshot immunity from an Archaludon. Super effective ground move into Archaludon is important. You force the Terra Grass, and now it's at the mercy of a Ceruledge, for example here. And here's the Scale Shot Dragonite over here. We did a video on this 2 videos ago, right? So Extreme Speed, Scale Shot, right? With coaching, you know, you get to mitigate that defense drop. And then, of course, it has to be multi-scale, which is really good here. And then it's low kick, so there's your checkpoint there. This is AV Gambit, which means you kind of have to go Miracle Seed Rillaboom for more damage. And, you know, these are 2 Pokemon that also benefit from coaching. And especially if you're going for, like, +1 Miracle Seed Grassy Glides, you know, that's picking up KOs, okay? So just be aware of that. And with the AV King Gambit, you already get a special defense boost. Now you add a defense boost and the attack boost coming from coaching Sneasler, you know, if you have to do it. So the Gambit all of a sudden becomes hard to remove, all things considered. Then you can get a little bit of recovery back with the grassy terrain, you know, just sitting there and being annoying, you know, with just these sucker punches, these iron heads, right? So overall, pretty cool team. I like it a lot. Hopefully, maybe we'll get a chance to use it one day. Then we come into the last 3 over here. So this is Colin's team, you know, Battle Room. This is pretty standard Sneasler Dragapult balance, but we have a couple of interesting options here. So this Dondozo was, you know, not new. This was being used already instead of the Primarina slot. You get the unaware ideas with Yawn and Fissure. That's okay. This one, you usually see something else here, but Volcarona still makes sense overall. Again, it's still a strong Pokemon, especially after you set up 1 Quiver Dance here. You've got the redirection with Electabuzz. You've got the fake out pressure here. Double fake out pressure, technically. So Volcarona can be your big sweeper. Tyranitar usage down a little bit. So now that's just good news for Volcarona in general, right? Then as we go down here, more Dragapult stuff. And this is from Carrie over here. But you've got the Water Taurus over here, which is with Mirror, which is pretty cool. You know, we've used and seen that before. But overall, this almost wants to be a Sneasler Balance Team, right? Like this almost looks like this person took out Sneasler and then just added the Paldean Taurus, right? All things considered. So that's pretty interesting. But again, it's like basically Volcarona balance to an extent, right? This is Thunderbolt Helping Hand. This is Black Gas's Gambit, and this is AV Rillaboom. So a little bit more of the standard set there. But the selling point here was the special Dragapult there, and I was waiting for it. Okay, so look at this. It's a Choice Specs Dragapult, not a Choice Band, but it's Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, and you still have the pivot in U-turn. So special Depult is something to, you know, consider. I would love to know the thought process here, but hey, it makes a lot of sense. You can definitely run special Depult. It's just not that common, okay, but it does work over here. Then as we go here into the last top 8 over here, Mr. Wolfglick himself with the Yanmega stuff. So we saw a couple of these, right? He wasn't the only one using this team, but the speed boost Yanmega is important because after one boost, you outspeed everything, including Dragapult. You don't even have to go timid for it. You can even go modest and still do that job. But after that, it's Instant, it's P2, it's Ursaluna. We know that core all in well. It's Terraflying P2. You can Earthquake next to it. White Herb Sneasler is a little bit uncommon, okay, but not unheard of. You get to remove those stat drops that you have, when you click close combat. And you get Garchomp now, so that's a dark move. That's great into Goldengo stuff, great into, other ghost types in general. But look at this Archaludon set. It's Power Herb, and that means no stamina, but it does have Stalwart. So just, be aware of that if you're a redirector. But look at this, Electroshot, Deep Pulse, Thunderbolt here. This is basically, is this not Raging Bolt? This basically reminds me of Raging Bolt, at the end of the day, right? So budget Raging Bolt here. But again, strong special attacker that can do well under Trick Room and even Tailwind at the same time, right? So I don't know if this Ursaluna has any speed investment on it, because you can technically Earthquake next to it, but I'm not so sure. But, flying types in general are very good right now because think about Sneasler being a fighting type and weak to flying. Think about all the other fighting types that want to come into the meta because they're pretty good into Archaludon. So that means flying types are going to be good. And Yanmega is no exception here. So you get Tailwind support along with Speed Boost. And then special attacking Air Slash. Some key flinches there, of course, are going to make all the difference. But overall, I like this team from Wolf. I don't know if he's going to use this again. He probably just put this on his YouTube channel, on his Patreon, and then everybody's going to use it. So, we'll see some Yanmega play moving forward. But overall, just a pretty cool top 8. There's some good diversity there. Lots of Sneasler. Okay, that much we know. But in terms of the cores of the teams themselves, there's some good variance, and that's pretty good for a format. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the other cores, and let's see what they've been cooking, and let's see how they did overall, and let's see what that means moving forward as we head into Lyle. Alright, so I want to take a look at this newer variant of Porygon 2 Balance that we got to see from the regional. So basically, here's the core, right? You have Porygon, Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Ursaluna. This part of the team never really changes all that much, right? This is always like the standard core that you want to start with if you want to try and do like P2 balance. Now, there have been some variations where maybe you swap out either the Incineroar or the Amoonguss, or even just a different ground type in the Ursaluna and just swap this out with Garchomp. But for the most part, this has been the starting core, since regulationH even started. Then we got to see variants like this where you had Goldengo, and then you added something like either a Tyranitar or either you added something like Pelipper, right? And for a while this was working, and it still works even now. Then we got to see this variant where we got to showcase the Flamigo in the place of the Weather Setter, right? And this was pretty good for a while, and you got to see this also in the regional for a little bit. They had some results, but the newest rendition is this, where you put back the Pelipper on the team, but now your Steel type, instead of Goldengo, becomes the Archaludon, right? So now you have two modes to the team. You have the Rain mode here, and then you have the P2 Balance mode here. And what's really cool about this is this time you can run technically Tailwind on this Pelipper, and then still have Trick Room available on the P2, or you can just fully commit and just say, you know what, we don't need Tailwind on this team. Our entire squad is relatively slow, so you could just run like Hurricane, you can run Weather Ball, and then you just run Wide Guard instead with Protect, right? So now you don't need the Tailwind, and now this allows you as an Archaludon player to maybe not even invest all that much speed into this, maybe just about one or 2 points, and then just invest more into your bulk stats and your special attacking stat, right? So if we go into the lab mouse here, we even have a few teams that did this. So at 17th place here, 9 and 3 from Joey Woodring. So if we just click his team over here, it's pretty standard when you look at it, right? So of course it's going to have Headlong Rush and Earthquake. So you have a couple of Earthquake targets, of course, with the Pelipper over here, but also technically the Archaludon can be Earthquake next to if you have the Terra Grass available, and if you have one defense boost already, you can resist it. Okay, and then the Amoonguss here in Instant and P2. This is relatively standard, especially with the Terra Fighting idea, which is pretty good into the King Gambit stuff, right? So then as we scroll down, we get to see a couple more of them. So I don't know if they built together, but maybe they did. So right here, Dylan Matthews and Daniel Yu, I think they essentially had more or less the same team over here, right? So this is just an idea of what you can do now with Porygon 2 Balance. And then, we still have a few more, like even this team over here with the Palafin. So it's nice to see Palafin actually get some relevant tournament results, because for a while, you know, people were not really using this thing anymore. Maybe they said, you know, I have a better haze user in Primarina, but now this is the banded Palafin that can come back in and click these priority jet punches, and then these flip turns are really strong right now. Okay, so, you know, it just depends on how you want to play the team, but overall, it's really solid, just in terms of that 6 that we just showed you. So it's just another way of using it, and then you can have this stuff, right? So like P2 Instant Amoonguss, instead of the Ursaluna, you have your Garchomp here. You still have your Goldengo, and then you add the Sneasler. This is again, you know, a very familiar chord that we've come to see now. Just slap on Sneasler on anything, right? And it just works. Then you have the Vivian variant, right? Which we got to see in previous regionals. And then you have the Choice Specs alone and Ninetales as a nice little adjustment here. But again, this is still more or less the same kind of idea. You just have a faster ground mode instead of the Ursaluna. And now if you go down a little bit more, okay, this is where you'll start to see the Flamigo stuff, right? So 6/5s all around over here with the Flamigo idea, you know, with Goldengo and the Ursaluna. Right, so maybe they're starting to fall a little bit out of popularity, but you know, just differences in how you want to play them are down here, right? So you know, we'll talk about some other P2 variants, right? Because they have some special adjustments and not even necessarily niche Pokemon, but you know, just differences in that 5th and 6th slot. I can't really talk today. That 5th and 6th slot that people are using to adjust into that. So we'll cover that in a different time span of the video. So how about the Archaludon Rain core here? So basically, if you want to start playing Arc Rain right now, you would start with these 4. Archaludon, Pelipper, Amoonguss, and the Basculegion for either the early game damage or even the late game cleaner, right? So, you know, you can technically just use these 4, and then these last 2 are where your slots start to see variance. But you don't even necessarily have to use the Basculegion, right? There has been some ideas in terms of trying to play these 2 together. So if you go here into the lab mouse here, of course we can see Riley Factura's team with this kind of core, and then you add the Sneasler and the Kingambit. This is pretty much expected. Again, we already discussed this team, but then as you move down, then you start to see a little bit of different ideas, right? So for example, if we go into Stefan Mott's team, right, Pengy, okay, he's saying, look, I still like Arc Rain, but I don't want the Basculegion idea. I want the Mouse Ape idea. Okay, so this way I can kind of play certain mind games with how I want to play the squad, right? So you already know you got beat up here into the Annihilape or even to the Archaludon, and then the Sinistcha is so good here because if you want to get to the Ape or to the Archaludon, you have to get past the Mouse and the Sinistcha, right? Because you have double redirection here, and then the healing capabilities of the Sinistcha and the speed control that you're getting here with Trick Room is just really, really good. And then this is the Life Orb Pelipper idea. So remember the Fevzi's squad, you know, from Dortmund, they were doing this. And now instead of Grimmstone, now you add Klefki here, right? And, you know, Misty Terrain was a rising tech as we headed in here, okay? But, you know, Dazzling Gleam, Reflect, Light Screen, but the typing is important. So remember, Klefki is a Steel Fairy type. Think about Zacian, right? You know, one of the best typings that you can have in Pokemon, has very, very good, you know, bulk in terms of, you know, just, are you taking any kind of super effective damage? From what? So what are the weaknesses? It's either going to be ground, it's going to be fire, but guess what? You're in the range, so the fire weakness is already mitigated. So that is already out of the picture. So now the Klefki gets to be rather annoying and just stay here and just keep clicking these Dazzling Gleams like it's nobody's business, right? And then like we said, Misty Terrain, pretty good against the, you know, the shenanigans from Spore, or even like Sneasler, you know, Dire Claw shenanigans. And I really like Terra Fire spell tag here because, again, this is really good against Will-O-Wisp stuff. So that's my way of playing the Ape right now, you know, because sometimes you don't get the chance to set up, but you still want your Rage Fist to do decent amount of damage, right? So that's a good idea there. And then after this, it's pretty standard, right? And I like this way of playing Arc Rain. So you could go the Mouse Ape variant, and Pengy did rather well with it. You know, just that one little substitution there with the Klefki over the Grimmstone just makes sense overall. Now, how about this one? We'll cover the Politoed in a little bit because that one's like a little bit of variance. Same here with the double Snow and Rain idea. I want to save that for a different point. But look at this. How about this idea? So you still have Arc Rain, Amoonguss, and Basculegion here, right? But then you add the Indeedee and the Sneasler. How about this? So now you have the trick concept here with the Choice Scarf. Okay, so that's interesting. And then you have, of course, the unburdened route with Terra Dark Throat Chop. So I like this too. This is another way to play it. Personally, you know what, the way I see it, why not just do the Imprison Trick Room stuff? So I thought that was an interesting choice here, not to go that direction. But hey, Choice Scarf Indeedee Male looks rather interesting to play. But I do like the 6-2. You know, that's why I'm looking at it. But the way I would like to play it, I would just like to play the Imprison Terra Blast, you know, idea with the Indeedee. So I guess they want a couple more moves here with the Expanding Force, D-Gleam, Shadow Ball. You know, that's okay. That's expected. But I'm just saying how I would like to play this. Then you have this other stuff here, you know, of course, with the Salamence Rain. You know, we've seen this before with the King Gambit in here over something like the Mousehold. But look at this Mousehold here. It's Rain Dance Mousehold. That is, so you get a fast manual Rain Dance user. Very, very interesting in that sense. So William Brown, good idea there. But then as you go down a little bit more, then you can find some other stuff here. So look at this. Then you have the Tauros again. So, you know, you know, it's interesting, right? The Paldean Tauros in the rain. So, you know, this becomes your rain damage dealer along with the Basket Legion. So we have two physical modes of rain or of water types coming in here. So, you know, same typing as Urshifu, but of course far from it, right? Then as you scroll down here, then we get to see some like older tools, right, from Arc Rain. But it's just interesting to see some of this variance. So we'll cover the Politoed idea and the double Snow and Rain at a different timestamp. But again, there are some options in terms of trying to play Archaludon Rain. So, you know, don't ever think you're restricted by one kind of core. Choose the 4, and then from there, vary up some of those last slots depending on how you want to play the team. Okay, let's look at Sneasler Balance as a whole. So up until this point, heading into this regional, this was your Sneasler Balance ideas. You had Sneasler, then you had the Gambit Rillaboom, and then from here, you can round out your Fire, Water, Grass core with something like this. Magmar, then you had the Primarina, of course, and then finally choose your Dragon type. Ideally, it was always Dragapult as the mainstay for this. And this was your typical Sneasler Balance team that you would see 9 out of 10 games on ladder, right? So the question now would be, would we still see this Reign Supreme heading into Louisville, right? Would this be the dominant 6? And the question, and the answer is yes and no, actually. So if we take a peek here, all right, so we have some different ideas that you can use with Sneasler Balance. So yes, we've already talked about the Chomp P2 idea, but look at this one from Benji Irons, right? So you have Sneasler, King Gambit, Rillaboom here, then you have Dragapult, so that much is still the same. Then instead of Magmar, you have Volcarona here, and then you have Clefable as your other fairy type here. So, you know, Unaware, Rocky Helmet stuff, and then with Skill Swap, this is huge actually. So that's pretty cool. And then of course Quiver Dance here from the Volcarona with Terra Fairy. So now you're just able to set this up, and then Volcarona can be the late game cleaner. So you have two setup mons with the Gambit and the Volcarona, and you still have double Fake Out Pressure with the Rillaboom and the Sneasler, and you have the redirection support. So you can definitely do this. And this is another cool way of playing the Sneasler idea. Then, as we go down here, so look at this. This is still a Dondozo team here. All right, you haven't really seen too much Dondozo anymore. But, you know, some people are still trying to make it work and still using it. And here's another pretty good example. So, Murkrow, Goldengo, Dondozo, Tatsugiri, right? You start with those 4. And then after that, of course, Murkrow, Garchomp makes a lot of sense. Another target that you can Earthquake next to. But this is the Scale Shot Garchomp. So remember how we covered Scale Shot D-Knight? Now, how about Scale Shot Garchomp? All right, and then this is Coaching Sneasler. So this is pretty cool, right? You can coach almost, you can coach even your own Dondozo here. And then you can even just switch out into your Tatsugiri and get a nice little extra attack boost when you think about it. So I think that's pretty clever here in terms of trying to make use of Sneasler with Dondozo. Then over here, then you have the Screens idea with Volcarona, right? So look at this. This is Tailwind Volcarona, right? And with the Grimmsnarl set over here, but it's just Light Screen because you've got Fake Out and Foul Play over here, right? No speed control needed here. But again, Nasty Plot, Goldengo, you know, along with Dondozo, Tatsugiri. So again, you can still definitely play Dondozo. Still makes a lot of sense here. But overall, look at some of these variants. How about this one with Hydreigon and Gengar, right? So this is the Unburdened Grassy Seed variant with Rillaboom. And then you have Instant, you know, just the double Fake Out boys. Your Gengar becomes your Haze user. And also speed control with Icy Wind. And then the Hydreigon, of course, your Dark type. Nice into some Side Spam games. Life Orb support, of course. you know, with Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, and even Flamethrower here. Terra Fire Flamethrower is actually pretty strong. So, you know, that's also pretty cool. And then this one has the Electabuzz over the Magmar, and instead of Dragapult, we have the D-Knight here with the Scale Shot D-Knight. So this is also pretty interesting. And again, you're going to have to go coaching here, right? And you do. So this makes a lot of sense too, just in terms of what you want to play. Then you have even some of these hyper offensive teams, right? So, you know, this was a team that we've, you know, used and featured before, where you had the Indeedee, the Typhlosion, the Tailwind user, and the Dragapult with the Decidueye, okay, and then the Sneasler, right? So if that looks familiar, that's because that's the 6 that we have down on our stream, right? And we've had the 6 down here for a while. So it's nice to see this kind of team make a strong result here in Louisville, okay? And again, you know, it's just another aggressive squad, and I love the Trick Room in Prison in male Indeedee. I think that shuts down a lot of those hard Trick Room teams very, very well, and allows you to be super aggressive, all things considered. So, you know, just shout outs to this 6 that still works even now. But then look down here. This is like, you know, 7 4s and 6 5s. This is where you'll find your more standard Sneasler Balance teams. So, you know, people have found ways around it, all right, because some of these newer teams are making their way, especially this one here with the Unburdened Drifblim Indeedee stuff. So now it just starts to say, like, maybe you can start off with a different core, right? So maybe you do like Sneasler Indeedee, you know, just and have the Throat Chop, right? With the Psychic Seeds, or even in this case with the White Herb, and then, you know, just build differently from there. And then you can have the Dragapult, of course. But again, we get to see Volcarona, so it just begs the question, like, can we see a little bit more variants with Sneasler? And we are. So you can use any of these variants. I think they're all pretty good. It just depends on what you value on your Sneasler balance. Okay, how about Double Dragons? How did they do? So this was the typical 4 that you would see together with Chomp, Dragonite together. Of course, with Chomp having good synergy with Dragonite because you can Earthquake next to it, and then Dragonite becomes your single target damage dealer. And then you had the Amoonguss for your Trick Room matchup and redirection support, and then you had the Ninetales for weather control, as well as potentially a damage dealer if it had the choice spec set. Some people were still using Focus Sash, some people were using, you know, Never Melt Ice. It just really depends on how you wanted to play the Ninetales, but either way, you always saw Ninetales with some dragons of some sort, right? So would we see that here? And we did. Yeah, so if you take a look here, so of course we saw Alberto Lara, you know, do this, you know, with the Chomp, the Dragonite, and the Corviknight, of course, with the bulk up set, along with Roost. And then here is the Ninetales with the Aurora Veil support. So again, you know, you have coaching here. You can coach all of these 2 dragons, but you can also coach the Corviknight, right? And we kind of saw this earlier with the Ceruledge, where you can do coaching plus bulk up, and then the Corviknight just becomes super annoying to remove because you can heal yourself with the Berry or the Roost, and then you're hiding behind screens anyway, right? So this is a really, really cool way to play the team. And then after this, you have Volcarona with, you know, Quiver Dance support. Again, just hiding behind the screens along with the Fake Out Pressure is pretty cool in terms of how you want to set that up. But, you know, again, Life Orb Dragonite versus the band. So I guess, you know, you want Protect too. Still makes sense. But overall, then we got to see some other stuff here with Chomp and Ninetales along with some other dragons. But I wanted to also show you this one. Okay, because not this one, but like in the middle right here. So, you know, this is the typical 6, right? You have Chomp, D-Knight, Ninetales, Amoonguss, and then Insane Gambit, right? This is the 6 that we've come to know already, and it did rather well, right? 9 3s, 8 3s, so very, very strong just in terms of what you want out of your Garchomp kind of teams. And then over here, this one is a little bit different with the Whimsicott Goldengo idea. So you still had Dragonite, Garchomp with the Amoonguss, but a different fairy in the Whimsicott instead. And then Goldengo can be super aggressive here, you know, with the choice specs Make It Rain concept. So that's pretty cool. Then a couple more squads that you can also do as you go down here. First of all, a couple people did this, right? So Geo and Dylan, they both threw out, I think that looks like the same kind of team, right? Maybe some variants in the sets here. But as you go down, again, it's just a little bit more standard, but the old stuff still works, right? So how about this one right here? This one's also a little bit different. So you still have Tyranitar coming in and giving Garchomp some support, but it's actually Rough Skin instead of Sandveil. And then you have Kilo Watcho over here, right? With the Discharge Tailwind idea with competitive. So you still have, you actually have two anti-intimidators, right? Defiant Annihilate and the Kilowattrel here. The Unaware Clefable, and then of course the Goldengo, which always does well with the Trick Room support. And now you add the redirection to try and set up your nasty plots, right? So that's another way to also consider it. It's not really double dragons, but it's still something worth highlighting because again, there's different ways to play Garchomp right now that I think are pretty cool. How about this one? I want to just shout out this one too, right? Because again, Garchomp Hydreigon with Talonflame and Goldengo was like one of the more older cores, but it still works even now. You still have Primarina over here with the Haze, and then of course the Trick is for the Trick 'em stuff, and then the Sneasler just can come in and just do Sneasler things, right? So, overall, Double Dragons are still doing very well, especially that 6 that we showcased earlier. But there's a little bit of differences that you can do now, like even this one, right? Look at James Beck, also still capitalizing on the Hydreigon Garchomp idea with the Tailwind and Goldengo stuff. Okay, this is a pretty cool 6 already. And we saw this before, right? We saw this in the previous regionals. So it's nice to see it may still do well even now. And it's just overall a very, very solid idea to consider. But I also wanted to pinpoint this one. So Charizard over here. So we'll cover more Charizard in a second, but this is another idea that you can do, right? Because Zard is still a flying type. So you can do Earthquake plus Heat Wave spam, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, right? No Tailwind user here, but I guess, okay, you have the Sneasler here with the Unburden, and you still have Imprison, Trick Room stuff. So it's just, well, you do have Icy Wind from the Clefable, so that's pretty cool. I do like this idea. This is a little bit interesting. Garchomp and Charizard together. We'll have to see if we can get a little bit more ideas with that moving forward. But nice to see Zard have some play here. And we got to see that earlier with Luke's team, which we'll cover in a second when we look at hard Trick Room teams. But overall, I think the Double Dragons are still in a pretty decent spot. Like here, even this one, right? It's almost like Sneasler Balance here. But again, you have a Dragonite here, with Garchomp versus that core. No Rillaboom, no Dragapult here. So, it's just another way of using it. But overall, I think it's still like very, very good right now if you want to play it. I wanted to spotlight Mimikyu as well here because I think this could see a little bit more play moving forward. Ghost Fairy is actually pretty good typing here, all things considered. Again, Fairy type really good against, all the fighting types running around, as well as the dragons that are also running about. And we don't have too many good fairies right now. Yes, we're getting a little bit more Ninetales play, but besides that and Primarina, what else do we have? So Mimikyu is another option to explore. We have a typical set here with Life Orb, Play Rough and Shadow Sneak, along with Protect here. This is also pretty standard. Then you can also consider Trick Room variants, where the Trick Room, Mimikyu is also like a guaranteed Trick Room, if you have a Fake Out user like Incineroar, right? Because you're guaranteed at least to take one type attack and then set up this Trick Room here. And then after this, you might even just see something like Shadow Claw over something like Protect here. And maybe you don't even have Protect Mimikyu. But Curse is another option to explore. And then we got to see that a little bit in Louisville. A couple players were using it. So let's take a look here from 12th place, Noah Bauman. So this is Scarf Garchomp, which is interesting enough, right? So like Scarf Chomp, Tantrum, Outrage, all right, with Dragon Claw. So you need to outspeed, the Sneasers and the Dragapult and just hit him super hard. But an Outrage, of course. Then you have Blood Moon Ursaluna, which I also wanted to speak about a little bit later. But, it's a little bit shocking that we don't see a little bit more play out of this. But at the same time, maybe not so shocking when you just think about what's running around right now, especially this guy, Rillaboom. But, after this, look at this. You got Trick Room here on the Mimikyu, like we mentioned. Then the Sneasler, Goldengo stuff. So this is a pretty cool team. I'm not going to lie. I do like Mimikyu here. And AV Blood Moon Ursaluna is something that could get a little bit more exploration as we move forward. But James Evans over here, this is the curse idea, right? Then you add Scale Shop Garchomp, right, for a little bit of speed advantage. And then the Rillaboom and the Goldengo here, a little bit more of a tandem with the Grassy Seed, getting a nice little defense boost. You can coach everything here, especially if you coach the Mimikyu. That would be pretty cool, right? Then the Volcarona here, look, Overheat, Struggle Bug, Will-O-Wisp, Rage Powder, support Volcarona set is quite handy when the time comes, right? So, this is pretty cool in terms of what James was running. So congrats to them. 8-3, solid result there. Looks like Nick was running the same kind of team there, but it's very interesting to see it. Like maybe Mimikyu can get a little bit more play because again, it's a fairy type that can give you speed control. Ninetales and Premier can't really give you that, and you are a ghost type with priority in Shadow Sneak, and you need the Life Orb for damage. right? So I can't really see this being played without it, but yeah, I think play rough also is quite good at the same. You just have to hit it, right? How about Torkoal and Charizard making an appearance in this regional? So again, we already know what you're getting with Torkoal with the sun support and changing the weather with drought. You have the option for going the eruption variants, you know, with charcoal or maybe even choice specs, right, as your Trick Room Sweeper ideally. But then you have the eject pack set with overheat. So this way you can nuke something and then get out of there because of the special attack drop, and then, you know, come back later, which is good against the pivoting ideas, you know, against the Pelipper and the Ninetales stuff, right? Then you come in with Charizard with solar power, and again, Charizard being a flying type is good because think about all the fighting types running around. Think about Sneasler, right? So anything you can do to give you an advantage in that sense is quite good. And Charizard just does so much damage in the sun already. This is your budget Chi-Yu, right? So you can do the Life Orb variant, you can do the Scarf idea, you know, just Heat Wave, tons of damage, and then of course the Air Slash, you know, just for your flying type coverage move here. And we got to see a couple teams take advantage of both of these Pokemon here. So as we go into the Lab Mouse website over here, so look at what we got here with Luke, aka Jin Fury, right? Because shout outs to Jin, man, what a run he had. So here's the Specs Torkoal, and here's the Charizard, right? But look at this, Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, Ursaluna, there's your core, right? Then you add Gallade here for your King Gambit Dark type matchup, and then Charizard just comes in here for your fast mode, and just so much damage here, especially with Dragon Pulse. You know, with the Scarf, you can put pressure on those Garchomps, those Dragonites, those Dragapults. So really cool idea here with the Zard, and nice to see this. Right? I think you're going to see more people using this moving forward because it's, you know, you don't get too many chances to use Charizard in a competitive format outside of Dynamax. Now's your chance. Then we got to see it again from Steven's team, which we kind of showed you earlier, but this is the eject pack set. So overheat eject pack, and then after this, look at this body press helping out. So like Torkoal's defense is also pretty high, so you can go for those hard hitting body presses. And then Indeedee here, Imprison Trick Room. You know what I want to do sometimes? I kind of want to just, you know, Clefable's important. I want to just take this and put Drifblim here, right? And just go the Unburdened Tailwind route. I think that would be pretty cool with a team like this. But, you know, I digress. I may have to think about that a little bit more. But Clefable does have this function over here. But look at this. This is like a fast mode here. Chomp, Earthquake next to Zard, a flying type. So like we said, Earthquake, Heat Wave, you know, Earth Wave. I don't know how else you want to call it like that. You know, maybe Heat Quake, right? So you can consider it like that. The Terra Dark Sneasler, of course, makes sense with the Indeedee here. But overall, pretty cool way to use Zard Torkoal stuff. But then look at this, right? As we head down, look at Matt's team, right? So it also has the Torkoal here, but instead we have the Salamence as our flying type of choice. So Dragon Claw, Doing Beat, Temper, Flare, Salamence. So this is a physical Salamence set, so that's pretty cool. You still get Hatterene here, but no Indeedee, right? So that was also something to note about Matt's team. He did not have the Indeedee. He has an Amoonguss. He's got a P2, right? He's got his Trick Room setters, but no Indeedee for Psychic Terrain and Redirection support. He's going with Amoonguss and King Gambit instead. So super cool team from Matt. He did rather well, 8-3 results. So shout outs to him, right? But then look at this. You know, well, right here actually. I think this is the more like the rather standard way. Like, look at this. Indeedee, Hatterene, and then this the final Gambit Annihilate, Torkoal, Armarouge, and Ursula. This is like a very standard cookie cutter linear 6, right? That you can use, and it still works even now, right? 5-3 is still like okay, but you know, I think here's like a better variant of that from what I'm saying. Like here's the Ursaluna, right? You know, just with the Lilligant, the fast mode here with the after your eruption plays. This is AV Torkoal, by the way, and then here's Gallade. So lots of different ways to try and play hard Trick Room, right? They did rather well, but you can see some of these are not really hard Trick Room. They have a fast mode to the team, and that's kind of how you want to play it, okay? You know, the hard Trick Room teams, they're a little bit linear, and they're harder to play, you know, at the higher level because you're so reliant on that Trick Room. But if you add a little bit of a fast mode to the team, whether it be something like Salamence, Zard, or even the Sneasler idea is also okay with the Indeedee, then you can mix your team up a little bit and have more options available, which means, you know, your opponent has to have more answers the more options you have. Don't sleep on Kommo-O in regulationH. We've been saying this since day one, but Kommo is that 5th dragon that is not in the top 12 graphic, but it still can do well if you put it on the right team. So if we take a look at the results here, so this again, just as a backtrack, you can play it two ways. You could do the Iron Defense, Body Press stuff, right? Or you can do the Clangor Soul, Clanging Scale stuff, right? And, you know, ideally after this, you would have like Flamethrower here for Protect and then Terra Fire, right? Because again, Fire, you know, Fairy Resist, Ice Resist, of course. But as we go here, you know, take a look at the Kommo teams. These are some pretty solid results from Kommo, right? So look at this one. So it almost looks like Sneasler Balance here with Gambit, Rillaboom, and then Electabuzz here, right? But then there's no Sneasler here, and then there's a different Dragon in Kommo. So look at this. You've got Fake Out Pressure, you've got Redirection here to help set up the Kommo and this type of set. And then, of course, the Blizzard from the Ninetales, the weather control, right, is important here. And then you have King Gambit. With the adaptability Basculegion, this is a team, right? So that's pretty cool. Then this one here has the Sneasler idea, right? So it's like Ninetales still, but give me the Sneasler with my balance core, right? With the Rillaboom and King Gambit, right? And it's a different dragon as opposed to Dragonite or Dragapult. But this is pretty cool. Like, I would want to play this. This actually looks really cool. And I kind of want to do something like this, especially like Tailwind Volcarona is a little bit underrated. Like Tailwind Woolow's Rage Powder Heatwave. This is actually really, really smart. Okay, because you have a lot of support now. Look, you've got Redirection, you've got Tailwind here, you've got Fake Out Pressure here, double Fake Out Redirection to help set up the Kommo, and that's pretty cool. You also can do that with your Gambit as well, so that's another way to consider it. And then look at this, the Ninetales with Choice Specs, of course, with Aurora Veil, might I add. So now you can have the screens idea, you know, with the specs. Of course, you have to switch it out. So maybe you go a different direction with the Ninetales instead of the Aurora Veil. But, you know, the bulk is very much appreciated if you're going to have double setup like this. So that's a really cool team from Lewis. And again, 15th place. So shout outs to them. Then you get another kind of double Dragon Core with Kommo-O and Dragapult over here. This is the IDDBP stuff, right? Like we said, Iron Defense, Body Press, Screen Support, Rillaboom here with Gambit, of course. Then we have a Glimmora. This is the odd one here. Like, I don't mind the Grimmsnarl because of the screens, just like Ninetales is providing for the team. But then we have a Glimmora, you know, a little bit interesting a choice here in this slot. I'll have to see, you know, how this does, but I think I might rather have something else there, but it's still pretty cool. Then you get, of course, you see a couple of these here, you know, the Wheezing Toadschool idea with the Kommo, right? So this is Clanging Scales, Aura Sphere, Flamethrower. This is Soundproof Kommo, right? And then, of course, look at this. You've got the Wheezing with the Toadschool. Of course, we've seen this from the first regional with, you know, the Spore shenanigans because of neutralizing gas. It doesn't really care. Then you have Palm out over here. But yeah, we got to see a couple of those, right? And then as you go down, you still see some of those those Kommo ideas with Primarina or Ninetales over here. So Thomas Urban, more or less the same kind of squad, right? Yeah, it is. And then look at this one. This one has Prim on it. Okay. Again, almost looks like a balanced team, more or less. But then this one was from Dortmund, right? This is the cool Drifblim Toxtricity stuff. This is Soundproof Kommo. So again, you can just click your spread move next to it, Boom Burst Overdrive, right? So that's really cool. And then, of course, the Indeedee Drifblim shenanigans. And then you can Boom Burst next to the Drifblim. You are a Ghost type, right? You can Overdrive next to Indeedee. You're a Ground type. So this is pretty cool. I like this team. And again, it has another good solid result. So that's 2 straight regionals where this thing did well. So yeah, then you have Sinistcha ideas, right? That much still works, right? So you had Sinistcha here, you know, with Kommo able to try and set this up, double Fake Out Pressure, and then you have the Redirection, right? That's always the theme. Double Fake Out, Redirection, and give me a screens if you can to try and set this up. But look at this Sinistcha set. It's Leaf Storm, Strength Sap, Curse. Okay, yes, we know Rage Powder, but look at no Matcha Gotcha at all. This is Strength Sap and Curse. Look at this is a team from Mason Cutler. So again, 5-4, 5D, but that is still like a really, really cool idea. So I don't knock the record in this case because, you know, you never know what their run has. Maybe a little bit advanced, a little bit of luck, but I do like that team. That team definitely could have done well. So I think that's Chessboard by their name on Twitter. So shout out to Chessboard, who we've had on the channel as a guest. But again, don't sleep on Kommo. I think it can do rather well, especially with Ninetales supports. Okay, so now I want to highlight some different niche Pokemon that did well, you know, throughout the tournament. And we love niche Pokemon on this channel. So these are just options that you normally don't even see, but did do well because they were put on the right team. So for example, Tom DeRosa's team, 8-3 record, Blastoise, right? You never see Blastoise being played right now in VGC. There's no G-Max Cannonade from Sword and Shield, right? So look at this. It's the Shell Smash set with, with Water Spout and the NDD support here. So we're, again, Blastoise special attack set, not very good, right? It's more of a defensive Pokemon. But now that you add Shell Smash, okay, now you're going to boost your damage with Splash Blade, Terra Water, and then you have Pelipper coming in with the Rain. You also have Helping Hand in DD. So lots of ways to boost Blastoise's damage here. And then don't forget, you still have Dragonite over here, with Haze that can help you in different matchups. And then, of course, it is the Scale Shot set, of course, makes sense. Then you still have Tailwind over here. And then the Sneasler, of course, comes in with Psychic Seed. You have the Throat Chop idea, which does well. And of course, you still have Archaludon Rain. So this is like a more of a niche Archaludon Rain idea here. But it's nice to see Blastoise come in and put on tons of pressure that you can do. Just click Water Spout and just watch things melt, right? So there's no Kyogre, but you can still do something like this. So this is pretty cool from Tom. Shout outs to them. Then we had some other stuff like Cryogonal. Okay. Yeah, right here. 7-4 from Stephen Brown, right? So, again, there is a niche here. Like, Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, you can get that with Ninetales, right? But look at this, Levitate with Icy Wind. So that's pretty cool with Garchomp, right? You can Earthquake next to this thing, and then you can click Icy Wind. If you don't know Cryogonal's stats here, let me show you this. Because the bulk is pretty good, right? So 135 speed depth, 105 speed, that's important. So you outspeed Garchomp, right? And the fact that you can outspeed Garchomp is important. And then the special attack set 95 is okay. It's not like great, but it's not paper either. So not too much bulk physically, but overall just another cool niche that you can get out of a Pokemon like this, right? And then, Talonflame, Goldengo, Chomp, you already know what you're getting with these guys, especially with Tyranitar over here. And then the Yawn Gastrodon is really cool here. This is my favorite Gastrodon set right now. The Ice Beam, Earth Power, Yawn, Protect set here. And then Terra type Steel is also understandable. You could even just do, Terra Fire, Terra Poison, whatever you want here. But this is a pretty cool concept from Steven with the Cryogonal. So shout outs to them. I think that's also pretty cool. Staying with the ice theme here, ice coverage is really good right now because there's so many dragons. How about that Glaceon team, man? Again, 7-4, day 2. So look at this. It's Ninetales along with Bright Powder Glaceon. This looks annoying. This looks like the Articuno Trauma all over again. And then you have Skeledirge over here with Unaware, right? With Torch Song rack up, with Slack Off healing capabilities. The Electabuzz can come in and protect the Skeledirge, more or less. But, just double Blizzard spam, and then you have Freeze Dry from the Glaceon. So now this thing just gets a little bit hard to hit, especially with Snowcloak here. So, yeah, makes sense. And then you have the Dragonite here, for your Dragon Fairy Steel Core, obviously, right? But this looks rather annoying. So nice job from Austin to do well with this Glaceon Ninetales team. And again, I think there's a rental, so hopefully we can showcase that a little bit. But, sticking with this, there was that Ninetales Pelipper squad that I also wanted to preview, right? So let me just go ahead and find that real quick because that was also pretty cool. I think if I just do Ninetales, I'll be able to find it here. But before we even do that, how about this one? There it is from Austin. Another Austin, by the way. Andrew's team. So again, this is the Never Melt Ice Ninetales, but the niche option here was the Metagross. Look at this, Terra Flying Metagross. Everything here is Terra Flying, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 targets that you can click Earthquake next to. All right, so Heavy Slam, Psychic Fan. This is actually a pretty standard AV Metagross set. But again, with so much Ninetales, I guess, running around, you can always just use this. And then Psychic Fans is really good. Poison coverage overall, and breaking Grimmsnarl screens, and just great into Primarina, of course, also into other Ninetales. Stomping Tantrum, Tech Ground Move, and then Bullet Punch Priority does quite a bit of damage, especially if you can just get it with a coaching boost from the Sneasler, right? So, and then the niche move here is Fire Spin. We got to see this on Spin. So, you're going to trap them. You're going to make them take chip damage over time. So I like this. This is pretty cool. I don't know too many chances where you're going to be able to use Metagross. So Andrew found a way to make it work. So shout outs to them. But here is that double weather idea, with Ninetales and the Pelipper on the same team, right? You got Arc, Basque Legion, Pelipper, Amoonguss, and then here's the goal. Very standard 6. Standard 5, I should say. But then you have the Ninetales coming in here and giving you that extra weather control at the end of the day. So, you can have screens here, and then everything else here just kind of is super bulky behind those screens. and it becomes a little bit more annoying. And, you know, think of it like this. If you start off Archaludon Rain, right, and you want to go for your Auroraville, and they want to switch in the Pelipper to change Ninetales weather, well, that just boosts your Archaludon, right? So you can kind of make some mid-ground plays in that sense, right? So I do like that concept. I think it makes sense. I don't know how many times Austin did that, but look, it works. They got the result. We're going to try it. We have the rental, I believe. They posted on Twitter. So stay tuned for that. But, you know, Pelipper is not your only rain setter that also had some decent results. How about Politoed here? More people are starting to explore it. So this one was interesting, right? It's the Scarf Politoed here. Now, you do get Haze, and that's the one thing that you have the advantage over in terms of Pelipper. You do have access to Haze. You also have access to Perish Song, and I've seen this played a little bit with the Gothitelle stuff, which is actually what you see over here, right? And I'm surprised we don't see two more of it, but, you know, this is pretty cool in that sense, right? You have the double Dragon Core with, you know, Dragapult and Archaludon, then you have the Sneasler stuff, so you have your standard 3 right away. Then you add Politoed here, so you still get this Fire, Water, Grass Core, but, you know, you have Surf here. That's gonna at least proc the stamina boost, right? Where you can start clicking body presses, so that's pretty cool. And then you have Loaded Dice Rillaboom with Bullet Seed. Then you have Worry Seed, okay? So then this way you don't get slept, right? You know, interesting enough as it is, but I think Politoed Exploration is pretty cool right now. Like, look at this. Is this Perish? No, it's still Haze and Icy Wind stuff. So not too bad there. You know, I do think the Perish idea, yeah, here it is, with the Gothitelle does merit some exploration. You know, I just think that combination, you know, with the Toad, the Gothitelle, just makes sense. You know, I don't know about these other options, but it still also makes sense. And maybe it can get a little bit more usage as we move forward there. But overall, I think we had a pretty cool regional just in terms of these niche results. I just want to scour the list one more time just to see if we missed anything in terms of something that we could consider moving forward as like a little bit more of a, not anti-meta, but like different in terms of the meta, right? We already covered the Blastoise like we saw, Cryogonal, yes. Gengar, yes, we also saw. But again, these were like really, really cool teams overall. And just some teams that you've already been able to see just in general, right? But anyway, I can't really find two more. But yeah, that's it for now, folks. Let me know what you thought of Louisville Regionals. We got another one next weekend in Lisle. So hopefully this gives you some insight in terms of what you can see or consider playing if you are going to Lisle. All right? But yeah, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.